In my last weight loss transformation video, I left off at a major turning point. Today, I'm going to share how my weight loss transformation ultimately led to me getting fired from my 9-to-5 corporate job. But before we dive in, I want to sincerely thank you all for your incredible support. The channel has just passed 1,000 subscribers. The feedback I have received from you has been overwhelming in the best way. Your comments, especially those saying I have inspired you to begin your own weight loss journey, are what keep me going. Whenever doubt creeps in, I remember your words. To those of you who told me not to quit, I'm not going anywhere. We will grow the channel to 10,000 subscribers, spreading the message that it's never too late to change your body or your life. Now let's get into the story. I was like any other corporate employee, clock in at 9, greet everyone with the usual good mornings, have a meaningless small talk, coworkers asking how my weekend was, pretending to care, and me replying with the usual "it was good," when in truth, it wasn't. It was miserable. Here's what my weekends used to look like. On Friday nights, I drank to forget the soul-sucking drudgery of the week. On Saturdays, if I wasn't hungover, I would catch up on all those chores I couldn't do during the week. Groceries, laundry, ironing shirts, meal prepping, cleaning. Sundays, I spent them sad, dreading the return to the office. If you've seen the show Severance, that was my life. Back at the office, the happiest day I had was when they gave me a free jacket with the company logo. That was the highlight of my time there. Other than that, free cookies. I would sneak too, thinking I was clever, but probably everyone else thought the same. That's why they were always gone in minutes. People would ask what I had for lunch, just to fill the silence. We would talk about restaurants, they would discuss football matches, but I never watched sports, so I had nothing to say. Sometimes we had team building events like drinking after work to celebrate the grind. They would say work hard, play hard. Funny, isn't it? As if months of meaningless micromanagement could be healed by one beer with the same people who made your life hell. But I played the part. I laughed at their jokes, even the ones at my expense. I let myself be the clown. They would call me a midget when I got drunk, and I would laugh along, because as an immigrant, I felt like I had to be likable, non-threatening, someone who boosted their egos. That was the only way to survive. Every night, I came home exhausted. All I could do was scroll through TikTok, eat and sleep. I was dead inside, just counting the months and the years until retirement, waiting for peace, right? My relationship and the illusion of a dream. That's a story for another part in this series, but in short, it was just another fantasy I clung to, a way to distract myself. I dreamed of a marriage, love, building a home, mortgage, but it was just another cage I was walking into willingly, another form of slavery I told myself was happiness. The ripple effect that changed everything. If you have watched part 1 of this series, you know I started my weight loss journey on March 11, 2024. The decision changed everything. One habit at a time, I changed my life. No breakfast, no lunch, no snacking. Whenever someone offered me a snack, I politely declined. People didn't like the new me. When coworkers went out drinking, I would say, "Sorry, I have other plans." Instead, I walked for hours listening to audiobooks and motivational podcasts. When they asked me what I had for lunch, I said, "Nothing, I'm fasting." Their response, "That's terrible, that's unhealthy, that's weird." My manager overheard once and said, "If you want to harm yourself, don't do it at our company, you have to eat." So I started lying and saying I had eaten, but they would catch me when I couldn't answer the follow-up questions. As I lost weight and started exercising, even my posture changed. I wasn't slouched anymore. My shoulders pulled back, my neck straightened, and it happened naturally. I had confidence, I had self-respect, and the judgments began. People started to hate me for it. They missed the old, overweight, submissive version of me. The more I improved, lost weight, gained muscle, stood tall, the more hostile they became. At first it was subtle, then it escalated. "You look sick, you look scrawny, you need to eat more to work more." Mind you, I was doing my job perfectly. I was in the best shape of my life. My skin, energy, hormones, even my knee pain, all had improved dramatically. How is that unhealthy? Someone explain, please. One day my obese boss complained about his knees. I tried to help, told him it might not be wise to run on the treadmill for an hour with joint pain. His response, "Okay doctor, now get back to your desk. Apparently you've got too much free time." And they all laughed. He later had surgery, his knee got worse. The Christmas party and the boiling point. Our company hosted a yacht party for Christmas, which is summer in here. Spouses were invited. It was sweltering, over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Everyone took off their shirts. I was shredded, 10% body fat. My coworkers, overweight. The founder, at least 450 pounds. My boss was lounging with a beer in hand, belly spilling over his shorts, wife beside him. She glanced at me and asked him, "Why don't you lose some weight like him?" referring to me. My boss snapped. "Like him? He looks sickly, like one of those starving kids in a magazine." I replied calmly, "You're right, boss. I'm scrawny and unattractive. But if I wanted to look like you, it would take a month of binge eating. Easy. Pleasant even. But to look like me, if it's even possible, takes years of sacrifice and discipline." His wife laughed at him and said, "He's right." He fell silent for the rest of the trip. The real bullying begins. From then on, everything changed. My boss grew colder. He criticized everything I did. When I stayed calm, it made him even angrier. Eventually, he stopped speaking to me entirely and had the manager relay his messages. Let me tell you, she took it to a whole new level. Unlike him, she didn't raise her voice. She knew how to break me with precision. Cold, sharp, soul-piercing comments delivered in the whiny corporate tone. A sonic weapon I had no defense against. Suddenly, they were tracking how long I spent in the bathroom. I was even denied time off for tension headaches. Told I should just eat. I was forced to wear formal attire, even though my role wasn't client-facing, while others wore flip-flops and t-shirts. They made me come in earlier than anyone and leave later. It was about dominance, not performance. The more confident I became, the more they tried to put me back in the box they thought I belonged in. Even after my breakup, they all laughed at me. They called me a naive loser, needy, weak. Even the manager, with that corporate calm, said, "If this is affecting you, we can't afford to keep you here." But the truth is, it wasn't affecting my performance at all. The final straw. I was demoted. My title was changed, but they couldn't legally cut my pay. The excuse? Lack of enthusiasm. Seriously, I thought. That was the best they could come up with? One day I delegated a task like I always had, but was scolded. "You're not in a position to do that anymore." An angry email followed, threatening punishment if I didn't stay in my lane. I'd had enough. I submitted my resignation, and guess what? They were thrilled. They wanted me to leave. If I stayed, they had a scapegoat to bully. If I left, one less threat to their fragile egos. Legally, I could have fought. I had every right, but I was too tired. I didn't want to waste my life in court. I wanted peace. Even after quitting, they tried not to pay me for my notice period. When I stood up for myself, they backed off, but forced me to stay until the last second and do meaningless tasks meant to crush my spirit. My crime? I stopped being the office clown, the self-deprecating jester, the yes-man who inflated their egos at the cost of his dignity. No one said goodbye when I left. My boss, however, with a smirk, he said, "Don't forget to sign up for Uber, fit guy." Everyone laughed, and that was it. Discarded like trash. I walked out and sat on a bench, then suddenly broke down and cried, for the first time since I lost my grandmother. To make it worse, I was also going through a painful breakup, which I'll share in the next part of this series. While I sat there, an old woman approached me and asked if I was okay. I told her, "Just going through some shit." She smiled kindly and said, "It will be alright, son. You're young, strong, and healthy. You'll make it." She patted my back and walked away. That moment of kindness meant the world to me. She reminded me that I still existed, that I mattered, that I'm human, not a disposable tool. As I snapped out of my thoughts and took a moment to look around, something magical happened. I noticed the sky, the deep blue, the vibrant green of the trees, the crispness of the air that made me want to breathe deeper, the singing of the birds that sounded better than any music. The reality felt like a 1940s Disney animation. It was the first time since forever that I was experiencing that. I was free. No more racing back to my desk. No more explaining why I was gone for 2 minutes. No more fear. I didn't take the bus home that day. I walked for 2 hours, just thinking. What's next? I'll save the rest of the story, my journey on YouTube, which began February 18, 2025, for part 3 of this series, and the story of my painful breakup for part 4. Let me know if you want me to change the order. If you want to see what happens next, please subscribe. If this video resonates with you, give it a like. And if you're experiencing something similar, feel free to share your story in the comments. I know I'm not the only one. See you soon in part 3.